So I'm John MacDonald, and I'm head of mission for Methodist Mission Northern. But my connection with this part of town has been, was for 5 years Chaplain At Large to the city centre. And the Karangahape precinct was really where I was able to connect and work on development of community far easier than anywhere else. Now, in my current role, I'm asked to, let's visit New Zealand and see how we can develop this model of community beyond the city centre. I came to Auckland City Centre from a corporate job in hospitality. And I came from a need to be able to ensure that my business had a strong monthly return. And I brought that to chaplaincy, that the reality is that business is good for us. How that business, the shape of that business, responsibilities of that business are ingredients that I think we've sort of spent the last probably 30 years ignoring. And we need to readjust our understanding of business and community and responsibility. And I think in latter years of being here, we got more and more glimpses of, even Fonterra's concerned about community responsibility these days. How well they do it, well, who knows, but at least the corporates are believing that in order to exist responsibly within this little city, they have to be engaged in new and very profitable ways. It's good to have a healthy community. It's good for business to have a healthy community. It was really through Korero and its business association and its arts and its poetry and all that stuff that I guess I found my particular niche, in that I discovered a community that was open to connection and building something that most of the rest of the city centre was not vaguely interested in. So nurturing social infrastructure. And even when I came here in 2013, people were anxious that the street was going to change. Well, now, from where we are now, it has changed quite dramatically. However, I think there are some basic ingredients. There is an essence within the community that still holds it apart from the rest of the city centre. On Karangahape Road, I met young people who had come straight off the farm in Ngātia to live in Auckland. The only place they could afford to live was in some, fairly derelict flat on Karangahape Road or Cross Street or somewhere around here. And I also met people at Poetry who would have been in the afternoon sitting in a boardroom in the SAP building. On the street, I met people I'd meet young men who would find it very appropriate for them to be in a frock and on heels, but at the same time doing graphic design for me in my corporate kind of office. There was a coming together of community in a way that was not overly threatening. There was a comfortability about it that wasn't always straightforward and easy. However, you weren't going to do that probably in the Wynyard Quarter or down in Britomart. You weren't going to find that in the same way. So a great diversity of people could find their way around this particular part of town without it being particularly unusual. I think it's amazing standing up here at the optometrist on the corner early in the morning and watching people going to their buses. We've got every variety of nationality and culture, and it is an amazing diversity that we have just on that corner. And yeah, that's a rich ingredient in who we are and what we are. And there's somebody there shaking the pottle, looking for some change. That they are allowed to be there, that they're just as much part of our community as others, and part of our organisation, or major concern of our organisation, is that these people get the kind of support that they need, deserve, and not be made to feel as though their situation in life is all their fault. It's easy to make it their fault. I crafted a little, I don't know, what do you call it? A thing called Splice. And Splice is about crafting strands of community into a binding splice that brings strength. It doesn't require anybody to be anything other than they are. However, it's about the weaving together of multiple strands into something that is stronger than the original single strand. And so in Splice we were really concerned to identify strands in our community that are isolated, that have sort of quite strong inferiority complexes, or those parts of our community with around mental health or homelessness, and giving other parts of the community that are strong and courageous and going places, bringing all the strands in between, all of the strands in the spectrum of community together to build a better, a safer, a more productive space. And my hope was that in Karangahape Road we would craft out social responsibility in a way that gave everybody a good time. I think this community has enough variety of strongly motivated agencies that, dragging them all together, could build a manifesto that makes this a sort of a beacon or a lighthouse for other communities. That's what I found with Splice. As soon as people start, I don't do it so much now, but I used to be able to go down Karangahape Road of an evening and introduce people who wanted to visit me and my streets. I could introduce them to I used to be able to introduce them to the CE of ASB, and not even 2 minutes later introduce them to a young woman who was working the streets. And then I could introduce them to an artist who's got a gallery opening. I could introduce them to all sorts of people. They're all there on the street right in front of you. And they all have a special feeling for the area. Harnessing that through the various agencies, somehow bringing them together with a sort of a common ideal, a common dream, I think is a very strong possibility. I don't have any doubt about that. The work that, for example, Korero Business Association does, has been doing, and the work that maybe the Merge community has been doing. The kind of sort of loose confederative shops that used to be in St Kevin's. There are groups of people who I think could come together with a strong manifesto of what Karangahape Road is all about. And I don't think it would be difficult to talk about a contemporary business model of community responsibility, community development, community-led development in particular, that is very sellable. I think it's got something to do with, I've had a lot of young friends from over the years who have come to this part of town with their particular version of knitting or making sweatshirts or whatever it might be. And they've made a lot of friends and have really enjoyed being here, but then the lease ran out and they didn't have any collateral to take up a new one, so they went home to mum and dad. I know so many wonderful artists, kids, people who've done that. I think the missing part has been, from my observation, having them believe that they are a critical part of this community, and we, with all our different parts in this community, need to be not allowing them to think that they're a sort of a kind of a luxury for the community. They're actually the essence of what gives flavour, what gives colour. I know that many of these younger people are in sort of transition. They are floating around, but it's like somehow there needs to be a sort of a home base that is made up of opportunity for the arts, opportunity for business, opportunity for residents, that has some glue about it. And when Sally goes off to New York do a 6 month something or other, she actually knows she can come back, but so many sort of don't come back because I think they've had their Karangahape Day roads already. But I sense that there's opportunity for something of an alumni that a good manifesto about this area of town could nurture. I was sitting up on the road there the other day with a young woman who's got mental health and she's had addictions and all sorts of stuff. She's a really good artist and writer, really good, but not in the right place at the moment. And she said to me, that pig over there, she's looking at Misery's bronzes. Where did that come from? How come that's here? And I said, well, there's a young woman on this road who, over the years, has just developed her craft, and these are a gift to the road for people like you. Just a reminder that your craft needs to be developed. There's opportunity here and she was really taken. I don't know how she didn't know about where these things had come from, but having signs about the place, signs of hope, some signs of, signs of achievement, and those things wouldn't be on our footpaths or on our squares without the community having recognised the value of art. And I think in a nation that is really struggling with mental health and those kind of issues, particularly in our young people, particularly in our young women, those kind of signs of hope are something that should be, again, tied up in a manifesto of who we are and what we are, where we're going. We don't want to be like the Wynyard Quarter or the harbour down there. We are who we are, and we're quite different, and we have a much broader spectrum of life as businesses, as residents, as community, as people who are healthy, people who are well, over against people who are in very vulnerable situations, like you find at the merged community. One of the most significant challenges that the whole city faces, but in our sort of microcosm part, the challenge of diversity, cultural, ethnic diversity, and that diversity, the challenge of that diversity not overwhelming mana whenua kind of issues. And in the name of our road, we have the opportunity to have our biculturalism lead a multiculturalism in a way that I don't think we've quite grasped yet. I think there's such a strong mandate in hape as a person, a vulnerable person, who in for all his vulnerability was calling out to people to come here. And I've been saying for years, it's actually out of our brokenness that we build, and we build strength, and we build courage, we build community, and that's what the road's about. And as we build, we need business. As we build, we need community places, spaces. We need art. But that's what the call is. Symbolically, hape was here first, and starting there, I think, is the start of the manifesto, the big picture, and how we ensure that we journey together biculturally in order to welcome, as hape, to call out and welcome people of other cultures. Somehow that needs to be written up. And how do we identify that how critical that journey is, and the richness of invitation that we have right now to a group of people coming in from, Syria. It has to be so rooted in hape's call to them. we've all come from somewhere. We've all been welcomed here. And it's that understanding that I think is critical for the journey, and is critical in the unique manifesto of Karangahape Road.